Asbestos used to be seen as a wonder material for its fire protection and thermal insulation properties. It was used a lot in building work before the year 2000. Now we know that breathing in asbestos fibres can cause serious and often fatal conditions, including mesothelioma and other asbestos-related lung cancers, asbestosis, which is scarring of the lungs, and pleural thickening. It can take a long time, between 15 and 60 years, before the symptoms show. Currently, about 4,500 people a year are dying from illnesses related to asbestos exposure. It is now illegal to use asbestos in building or refurbishment work. This is Max, the owner of MyCo. One of his best friends was recently diagnosed with lung cancer, which has prompted him to review asbestos management in his company. He looks at MyLegalRegister to find out about the control of asbestos regulations. The regulations cover all non-domestic premises, so MyCo is included. In residential buildings with several occupants, the common areas such as lifts, stairways, etc. are covered, but private rooms are not. Those responsible for managing asbestos risks are called duty holders. They can either be the owners of the premises or have responsibility through a contract or tenancy agreement, such as a facilities management company, or they have control of the building without a contract. As a duty holder, Max reviews what he needs to do. Firstly, find out where the asbestos is and create an asbestos register. Max looks around his office and the next door kitchen and notices a few places where there may be asbestos. Asbestos insulating board in the fire door, the ceiling tiles, partition wall, around the boiler and window panel, loose fill asbestos insulation in the cavities, pipe lagging by the boiler, textured paint on the walls, vinyl floor tiles, the fire blanket, and outside there may be asbestos cement in the roof panels, gutters, downpipes and soffits. It's difficult to be sure, and someone with knowledge and experience, a competent person, needs to carry out the survey, so Max calls in a UCAS accredited company. They explore everywhere, even roof voids, and take samples for analysis. It's always assumed that a material contains asbestos unless there is strong evidence that it doesn't. The asbestos register records the location on a site plan, a description including the product type and what it looks like, condition, and details of any areas not investigated. Secondly, assess the risk. To decide how likely it is that fibres will be released into the air, the survey company considers the type of asbestos. Is it low risk, cryacetal, which is white, higher risk, amosite, which is brown, and crocidolite, which is blue, which is the highest risk. You cannot identify them just by looking. Condition. Is the asbestos, the sealant or protective coating damaged? The higher the percentage of asbestos in a product, the more fragile it is likely to be. Quantity and accessibility. Where is the asbestos and how likely is it to be disturbed? Is any maintenance work going to be carried out in this area? The risks are entered into the asbestos register and the highest given priority. MyCo have identified the highest risk to be the lagging on the pipes by the boiler, which is in poor condition, and in the kitchen where there are often staff. Max will be responsible for regularly checking the asbestos and making sure that any changes are updated in the register. Thirdly, manage the risk. What actions will be taken to prevent exposure? The management plan. Working with the survey company, Max prepares a management plan to prevent exposure. Let's look at these pipes. This one is in good condition and low risk, so we've decided to leave it. This one is slightly damaged and medium risk, so we're going to either repair, seal or encapsulate it. This one is badly damaged and in a position where people are working, it's high risk, and so we decide to remove it. Max allocates responsibilities and timescales and reviews the plan regularly to make sure it's on course and effective. Then carrying out the plan and undertaking the removal work. Max decides to remove the asbestos lagging in the kitchen. How the work is carried out again depends on the level of risk. Low risk work, like removing asbestos cement tiles in good condition, needs a competent company, but not necessarily one with a licence. Medium risk work, like the removal of badly damaged asbestos cement sheets, may again be done by a company without a licence, but this time the enforcing authority will need to be notified. High risk work, like disturbing pipe lagging, must be done by a licensed contractor and the enforcing authority must be notified. Max finds a list of suitable licensed contractors on the HSE website, work plans, training records, and that health surveillance is undertaken to make sure they're competent. The work is commissioned and goes ahead. The contractor works to prevent exposure to asbestos. The area is completely segregated, and even though MyCo employees are curious, they're not allowed in. When the work is nearly finished, the regulator arrives for an inspection. Max is a bit nervous as this has never happened before. The regulator looks at the worksite and documentation and seems to be happy, but it's sometimes hard to tell. Anyway, he doesn't issue any notices. The work is finished, the asbestos is correctly disposed of and the area is cleaned before MyCo is allowed to use it again. Max updates the asbestos register and the management plan. Information. Anyone going into areas where there is asbestos who may disturb it needs to see the asbestos register and the management plan. This could be maintenance personnel and the emergency services. Trade union safety representatives and employee representatives are also entitled to a copy. People working in the area should be aware of where there is asbestos and told not to do anything that could damage it, but if there was an accident, to report it immediately. Where possible, label the materials. Monitor and review the asbestos register and management plan regularly so they're up to date and effective. On Friday night there's a big after-work party to celebrate a new contract. Max looks at everyone having fun. He's able to relax now, knowing that he's taken important steps to protect them from the dangers of asbestos.